about was the fact that the original thing they were looking at was getting rid of contracting altogether. And then I said, well, then they have some other legislation that went through that we find it. What it did is it broke contracting into two parts. One part is the same as it's always been, prime contracting. It's virtually the same as it's always been. The other part is service contracting. And when I say this and I talk about these two parts, let me let you know, Arizona was one of the hardest places to deal with contracting. We were kind of alone in the way that we handled and thought about everything. 42 other states do it the way that we're headed. So 42 other states are successful in this. It's just a matter of kind of transitioning. It's going to be like any change. The first year is going to be painful. It's going to be a little painful for you guys. A little painful. It's been painful for us for a couple years, getting our hands wrapped around all this and getting it together. Because it is a lot of moving parts. But what's going to end up happening is making it easier for everybody overall. Okay? So that's our goal. Now, let's talk about these non-construction contractors, because this really is the different part of the universe. Service contractors are going to be exempted from prime contracting for both the state and city levels starting January 1st, 2015. Whether you're reporting it to a city that collects their own or not, we're following the same rules. Okay? So they're going to be exempted from tax. The reason they're exempted from tax for these service contracting things is because they're going to be paying tax on their materials at the point of sale. So, sales of materials to service contractors are subject to tax if the contractor works directly for a property owner and does maintenance, repair, replacement of existing property. Okay? Examples. I am a landscaper. I come out and you have a bunch of landscaping in and your sprinkler system is horrible. You've got crushed pipes, broken emitters, and the thing that's supposed to time it all is dead. I have to replace all that. I will now pay tax on the materials to do that job, and there is no tax on my total job. That 65-35 thing doesn't exist for me. Okay? I'm a painter. I am hired to paint the whole entire inside and outside of an existing structure. I will pay tax on the paint. I'll pay tax on my brushes. I'll pay tax on my drop cloths, though sometimes they argue about that. And there'll be no tax at the 65-35 split for the rest of it. I pay tax. The tax will be remitted through the retailer that I purchase from. Okay? Other contractors who are not doing maintenance, repair, replacement, or alteration are going to be subject to the same regular prime contracting they've always done. Who are they? Those are people who are doing demo and new, fresh construction and land development. Okay?
What if you're a mixture?
Then you'll do both. Her question is, what if you're a mixture? Lots of you are. When you're doing one thing, you'll do it that way. When you're doing the other thing, you will follow the rules for contracting. Yes, ma'am.
So if you carry an inventory and you're not sure if the inventory is going to which area?
Yes. The golden egg inventory question. And we know that you guys have inventory. Every business has a potential for inventory. Roofers have overages of shingles they've purchased. People who do road work have piles of rock. Landscapers have boulders and fixtures and stuff. We know you have it. We're not going to penalize you for it. On that TPT simplification webpage, there is, in the center frame, it's gray. As you scroll down, there's a heading that says prime contracting, and there's a TPN, I believe it is, 14-1. It's a transaction privilege tax procedure. It is 13 pages long, and it talks about your inventory in questions 8 and questions 9. What we're suggesting is that you inventory what you have on hand before January 1st, 2015. We will post on our website a way for you to pay the tax had you paid at point of sale. And you can divide it out over a period of 12 months. And there'll be a way for you to remit it to us. And then just use it as you use it. What if you do two different things? Take an inventory of all your stuff, and you're going to have to track which kind of a job it goes into, estimatedly wise, and then there'll be some that you have to pay tax as you use it, and there'll be some that you don't pay tax for because they are going to be going into a taxable contracting project.
So how is that being, how do you prove that?
How do we prove it? Well, let's be honest. Contractors make it sound like it's this really mystical process. But in order for a contractor to figure out how much they're pricing a job at, you know what you're using. And if you didn't, how do you know when to reorder when you're out? Good questions, right? So you have some control over your inventory. You have an idea of what the rules are for how many studs have to go in a wall and how much drywall. Drywall is not weirdly sized. It's a certain size of sheet, as are most materials. You have an idea how much you're going to use for a job. That's how you decide how much you're going to charge for a job. Let's be honest. So if you're able to do that, you're able to do this. And so when we come in and we look at what the job was and you have documented what it is you're going to do, then it should make sense. If you tell us that you're going to probably use 27 of these one items and you only use 25, no problem. And if you use 30, probably no problem. But let me be really honest, where your problem is going to be is if every time you purchase them on a Form 5000, you're saying they're all going into a tax-exempt project, and then we go and look at your tax returns, and you're not remitting any tax to us because you're saying all your jobs are service contracting. Gee, there's a way to figure it out fast. And then you get to pay penalty and interest on it too, because that is not fair. So, yes, sir.
Is there an easy way from, when you give a supplier a TPT exemption certificate, you either go fully, because you don't identify your inventory purchases when you're buying stock. Some of the stock is going to be used on repair jobs, some of the stock is going to be used directly to the property owner. Is there a way of going 100% one way or the other, and then either filing it as use tax on your return or filing it?
It's not use tax, you're not the end user.
Hmm.
It's not use tax.
So we have to identify from the supplier the individual purchases as to whether or not they're going into a taxable job or a non-taxable job?
You should have a fairly good idea if you're buying stuff specific. Most places do not have a warehouse full of everything on the planet.
Right.
You know, they might have an overage or a float amount of things that were not used for one job and could be used for another. We recognize that. And there are some industries where they drive around with stuff on a truck. But those industries that are driving around with stuff on a truck, like sprinkler heads and emitters and that kind of stuff, they're always going to be service contractors. They should always pay tax on them. Okay? For the other people, you should make a best effort for it. It's not use tax. You're not the end user. So that was my suggestion when they, you know, I'm not the smartest knife in a drawer, the sharpest eye. Mine was, oh, will that be under use tax? And no, it isn't. You're not the end user. They let me know that right away in tax policy. They'll have an ability for you to report it. Another question I got is, well, I buy stuff from all over the place. How is it that you know, if I've got a bin full of stuff, how do I know this one I bought from here and this one I bought from here? And again, you'll either have an invoice that tells you what you bought from where, because you're paying it with some sort of proof you need to pay it. Or you're going to, maybe you lost the invoice or it was so long ago you don't have it. We'll have a mechanism or a scheme for you to make your best estimate. Okay?